Now, welcome guys back to the channel and another episode of my little discovering interesting places all around the world series, if that is a thing. Yeah, in today's video, we're actually in Alaska. Or are we? Yeah, we're gonna visit Unalaska Airport today, which is an interesting name. Now, Unalaska is actually an island here, and this is the little island. It's pretty much in the middle of nowhere, but still, such a small town, such a small island needs some kind of airport. And this one does have one, which is fortunate, I guess. And let me just tell you, there's actual airliner service to this airport. We even have some 737s here parked on the ramp, which is pretty interesting with this 1,300 meter long runway, or around 4,000 feet. This is gonna be quite interesting. Now, I decided to make a video about this little airport, about this little island, after actually hearing about an incident that happened here not too long ago, in October last year. Yeah, on October 17, a Saab 2000, which is a little bit of a bigger turboprop, pretty much the comparable size to the Q400 that we have parked here on the ramp, that plane actually overshot the runway here and almost fell into water, and that got me interested, of course. So let's make a video about this one. Now, besides from the runway being very short, it's also pretty damn sloped, as you can see right here. It's not a very smooth surface, is it? That's gonna be quite a challenge for airliners. Also, it's right next to a mountain. Here is the little mountain here. And in general, the conditions in Alaska aren't very easy to fly in. You know, the winds can get very, very harsh up here. Also, the clouds can get very, very low. This is not a very comfortable place to fly at, let me just say that. Now, this takeoff in the little Cessna 172 obviously worked out without any issues. This is actually a special version of the Cessna 172. Obviously, this is the seaplane version of it, but it's kind of an amphibious aircraft as well. It can also take off on land, which we just did. But let's try a plane that is maybe a little bit bigger than something like the Cessna 172. You know, we can actually try out a little bit here. Now, let's move on with a plane that I've actually fallen in love with. That's the Dornier 228. This plane is amazing. It's used all around the world on short runways. Yes, we have used this plane on the channel before, and I think that is actually the perfect plane to operate here, because it doesn't need a long runway, which means it's safer to fly here. Actually, the Saab 2000 that crashed here doesn't fly at that place anymore because, well, you know, lesson learned, I guess. Right now, there is one airline that has scheduled service to this airport. It's Grand Aviation. They fly here with some Beechcraft, some smaller ones, but they are a little bit bigger than the Dornier that we have right in front of us. Let's land it here. That shouldn't be an issue. Again, this plane doesn't need a long runway at all. There we go. That was already a stop. Yeah, this plane flies to any place, really. Even the most dangerous airport in the world, Glucroft, no problem about that at all. So that worked out. I'm really not sure what the scenery designer of this airport here for this flight simulator thought of placing a 737 here. Why is its nose landing gear missing as well? That's not good. Yeah, I probably need some maintenance. Now, let's move on to an actual bigger plane. Now, as a tribute for the Saab plane that crashed here a few months ago, let's actually go for another Saab. This is the Saab 340, which is another turboprop airliner. This one is not as big as a 2000, and honestly, this one is, I think, the perfect plane for Unalaska. If I was an airline here in Alaska, I would probably go for this plane. It can operate at pretty short runways. I think this would be the perfect plane for this area in general. Let's actually get some more realistic weather scenario in here too. As I've already said, the weather in Alaska, it's a little tough, just a little bit. Now, when the Saab 340 landed here, there were winds of 20 knots, and that's actually quite a common wind here at this airport. Let me just tell you, 20 knots, that's a little bit too much, even though it should be a wind speed that is flyable for a plane. Even for a small Cessna, 20 knots of wind is not that much of a challenge, or at least it shouldn't be. Actually, the crosswind limit of most small planes is around 30 knots of crosswind, direct crosswind, which is pretty good. So even 20 knots should not be impossible to bear. Now, let's try getting this plane landed. Now, I think we even have some tailwind, which is why I'm gonna pull the reverse thrust in mid-air. That's gonna bring the plane down. Alright, now let's stop. Alright, perfect. This was not a very comfortable landing, a pretty hard one actually. Not super good. There we go. Yeah, a lot of tailwind. Boom. But I brought the plane down successfully, no problem at all, so that was good. Again, the Saab 340 is probably the perfect plane for this little airport. I wouldn't really go bigger to something like the Saab 2000, honestly, but let's just do that. Let's try flying something like the Q400 here, which is even a little bit bigger than the Saab 2000, but it's still a turboprop airliner, so we're still on the turboprop level. Let's see if this plane can fly out of here. I think with this slopey runway we'll actually run into some issues, right? Because we might actually hit the turboprops on the ground. That is something that we have to avoid. Let's just try doing that. All right. No skier. All right, there we go. I think our landing here might need some maintenance now. We hit it very hard on the ground, especially the nose gear, but that didn't collide, so no problem, right? And the Q400, it doesn't need that much of a long runway either, so we can move on without any issues. And the next plane is gonna be pretty interesting, and it's actually an Avro plane, the RJ100. This British plane, the Avro, it has flown at this very airport before in real life. Yeah, Airpac actually served this airport with their Avros. Yeah, Airpac decided to fly their Avros here for some reason. Let's see if it is at all even possible. I'm not quite sure. I mean, this plane, it doesn't even have reverse thrust, but it does have some quite enhanced short runway features, so well, maybe we'll be lucky that time around. Even though I think it's kind of stupid to fly something as big as an Avro jet here. Depending on the weather, that could actually be dangerous. But let me just tell you, they have even flown a bigger plane here as well, which is what we're going to talk about later on. And that one is even more shocking, I would say. Now, we even have some storm here now. Not only wind, but storm. So let's get ready, Avro, right? I'm actually kind of nervous. Alright, that was a touchdown. Let's see if we can try stopping this plane. Let's not skid off the runway. Alright, that was a landing, but I'm not really sure about a safe operation here. I mean, we almost used the whole runway for this landing, and a very, very firm touchdown was required in order to stop as well. Also, the center line was not perfectly hit. There's also a slight bank here in the runway. That's not good. The Avro is quite an interesting plane, actually, though, with its little flap that comes out in order to stop. There we go. Which is kind of its compromise for not having reverse thrust. It's kind of cool, actually. And it does help stop, I guess. Now, this was fine, actually. No problem at all. Now, about the bigger plane that has actually operated here. They even went bigger than the Avro. And I'm not kidding, they actually flew a 737 here. Yeah, Mark Air, which is another regional airline in Alaska, they flew their 737-200 combi jets here to this airport, which is just dangerous. Jesus, why would you do that? I actually got the 737-200 here in the flight simulator. Let's try landing this plane at this very airport. The thing is, you see a lot of old 737s operate here in the north, also in Canada, because they actually used to have a model of the 737 that could operate on gravel runway. Yes, it didn't even need a paved runway in order to fly properly, which is very interesting. Also, the 737 never really needed a long runway, pretty much. So I can kind of understand that they thought operating a 737 here would be safe, which I do not think so, but whatever. Let's try operating this plane here and see if it goes wrong or not. I mean, what do we have to lose? This is only a simulator, right? There's also a lot of ship traffic here I've just seen. Interesting. Okay. I'm not really sure about this crosswind, actually. Oh, come on. Oh, wow. We didn't even hit the runway this time around. Alright, no problem at all. I mean, you know, this is one of the shortest versions of the 737s ever made. I really like the old 737s and also the modern ones. Let's actually fly a modern one here. Let's fly something like a Max 10, which is a way bigger plane and also needs a way longer runway. Yeah, these more modern Boeing planes, they need a longer runway than the older ones. I mean, obviously. So this can be interesting. Alright, please don't crash now. We actually have a lot of wind shear here as well. Yeah, this is the Max 10. It's a plane that's actually not even existent in real life just yet, even though I think they actually have done some testing on the Max 10 already, so that is good. Let's do some further testing on the Max 10, you know, if it can operate on Alaska Airport with very bad weather conditions, actually. Alright, pretty hard landing. Yeah, you need to have very tough landing gear at this airport here. Okay, now we need to stop. Oh, okay, alright. That was actually pretty close to an overrun. That was one of the most uncomfortable landings I have ever done, pretty much. Yeah, with that sloped runway here, it's really not easy. But here we are. Oh, hard one, actually. And with that very, very, very bumpy runway, it's more of a skate park, really. Not very easy. Alright, let's now move on to, obviously, a bigger aircraft. How about an Airbus? We haven't used an Airbus in a while. Let's try something like the A350. Pretty nice plane, actually. Let's try taking that off. The thing is, landing the A350 is quite difficult. It does need quite a long runway to stop, as it doesn't really have a very strong reverse thrust, and the simulator has just crashed. That's not good. So taking off will obviously be a little bit easier. Let's do that. All right. Time for a toga takeoff, I guess. Yeah, the A350, yeah, this will not work out. Or whatever, let's try this anyway. Again, let's go for toga now, meaning that we're running at full power. We can barely hear the aircraft. The A350, it is pretty quiet. Maybe some flaps too before we begin. There we go. Let's unleash the power by turning off the parking brake. There it is, and we're off. Now, the acceleration of the A350 isn't bad, so maybe our chances this time around are pretty good. All right, 120 knots already and a very damaged landing gear, but maybe a safe takeoff anyway. Oh, very much damaged landing gear now, but no problem. Aside from our very bad wind situation right now, we are flying just fine. You know, the A350 is actually quite a nice plane. Here we're taking a look at the first class cabin. This looks very, very nice. Perfect. This takeoff worked out without any issues, so you can even serve on Alaska on long-haul routes, right? Even though, you know, landing could be quite another story, but, you know, who cares? Now, let's go actually big. Maybe something like the 777, which is quite a bit bigger than the A350, definitely. This is actually the long-range model, yes. You can fly all around the world with this thing, basically. So could you fly from Europe to Alaska directly? Let's find out. It probably wouldn't be very profitable, but that's another story. Yeah, I can already see the 777, it doesn't like this weather at all, but we're still in the air, so that's fine. You're all good. All's fine. We're gonna just do a safe landing. Alright, let's hope that the mighty reverse thrust of the GE90 engines will help us stop. Alright, hard landing now. It's required. Alright, yeah, no way. We can hear clapping in the background. Our passengers are probably very much disappointed now. Yeah, just with that runway slope and the bad weather, it's impossible to land here. Let's try turning off the bad weather and see if that makes it a little better. Maybe that'll help us a little bit, I guess. Alright, passengers, let's get ready for a smoother landing, hopefully. We didn't even hit the runway last time around. Alright, come on. Stop. Come on. Alright, swim time. Yeah, this plane, it just won't stop. Especially these modern plane. They have a thing that they can only deploy reverse thrust when they're on the ground. And with this kind of slopey runway, you're pretty much always jumping around, which makes it a lot worse. So there's no way of stopping something like the 777 here. Let's maybe try something of a smaller plane. Maybe the 767. We might have a better chance of surviving with that one. Alrighty. Time for another try. The 767 is a lot easier to handle. Let's see if it's able to safely operate at Alaska. Stopping should be pretty straightforward. Oh, Jesus. Oh, that is close. That is very, very much close. I mean, yeah, this was kind of an overrun as well. Yeah, pretty disappointing. Now, what's the conclusion of this video? Don't fly any plane that's bigger than... How about the Saab 390 at Unalaska Airport? I mean, even though there has been the 737-200 that has safely operated here, it's still not a good idea to fly that plane here, definitely. Don't do that. I mean, you know, you don't want to put yourself and your passengers in danger. You know, in the Saab 2000 overrun, one person was actually killed because the propeller was damaged and actually ended up smashing into the cabin and killing one person. You don't want that to happen, so, you know, just fly something easy like the Saab 390 here. I don't really imagine that there is a lot of demand for this airport anyway. I mean, who wants to go here? So filling up a 737-200 in the first place here could be quite a challenge. So, yeah guys, thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you tomorrow. As always, good night.